All right, it's Monday at 11:30 Mountain, and what is that, 1:30 Eastern? So you know what that means. We're going live with the audacious founder. Okay, really, like, not. Where is she at? Because we are talking all things podcasting today. So Melissa, when she gets in here, there she is.
Hello.
Hi, it's
Hi.
Monday.
Oh, I gotta turn your volume
Oh,
up. Here we go.
up there. It's Monday. It's
Is it Monday
Monday.
again?
I
Oh
know.
my goodness. How do these Mondays come so quickly?
So fast, so
Yeah.
fast. I know. And our kids, we had snow days last week, so it was like the extended
Oh,
weekend, and
oh
now
wow.
here we are
How
again.
you doing? How you doing with all those snow days, all the kids home?
Here we are again. I love them so much. I really do, guys. It's just like I just love them.
So mine is in the bathroom. She made a huge mess with like wax from a candle. So she's in there cleaning it up and singing Backstreet Boys. So if you hear that at some point, that's what that is.
I mean, that doesn't sound like a bad life.
She's got her roller skates on, skating through the house, playing with wax. I don't know what's happening.
Oh my
And
gosh, I want to
telling
come
me
live with you. Oh, all right, guys. So here we are again. It is a live with the Audacious founder, and you got BT here as well. And we have decided that today we are talking all things podcasting.
Great. Yes, I am happy. I love talking about podcasts, and I think more people should do podcasts.
Oh my gosh, tell us why.
Well, I'm thinking of one person in particular
Ooh.
who she has an Instagram that is very funny.
I was
It's
like, are you
called
talking initial start with a JW?
no.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Oh,
Keep going.
oh, Julia. I mean, yes,
Now she's gonna know
yes.
we're talking
Her
about
murder
her.
podcast or
Or
whatever podcast she wants to
whatever
start.
podcast. Okay, but so you got this. So there's this Instagram account, and you're like, the always funny
Yeah,
content. You're like, where
shout
from?
out. Esta Madre Loca. Oh my God, I just sounded so white. Esta Madre Loca. Okay.
That was
Anyway, she does a lot of really funny, like stuff about being a mom, stuff about being a wife. She should have her own podcast. She tried to do it briefly. I don't know if she's going to get mad at me for calling her out, but she tried to do it briefly with a friend and like it didn't stick. And so I want her to start one. And there's so many people out there like that need to start a podcast.
Okay, so why start a podcast, and then maybe when we talk about like reasons that podcast. I hate to say the word fail because I think that everything like runs the course that it's supposed to.
Yeah.
But maybe like why? Okay, interesting statistic. So when I started my podcast, one of the things that I had to like one of the fears that I had to combat was I was like, okay, what is my podcast in a sea of 5 million podcasts? What difference is it going to make?
Yeah.
And my coach and my mentor, she was like, okay, if there are 5 million podcasts out there, guess how many of them have 10 episodes or more? And I was like,
Oh,
10? 10 is the benchmark?
percentage? Yeah.
250,000 have 10 or more. So when you go from 5 million to 250,000, you're like, oh my gosh, that is crazy. So of course,
Wow.
naturally, my brain goes to what happens between 250,000 and 5 million that people that large of a percentage break off.
Hashtag
So
consistency. It's hard. Yeah.
yeah, I would say playing the podcast game, it's the consistency
Yeah.
that picks up. But okay, because you've had your podcast longer than I have.
Maybe, but maybe not because I did drop off. So I started in 2021 and I did it for about a year and I only did one episode a month. And that was hard enough to like keep up. I don't know, it felt hard to keep
Yeah.
up with that even for a year. And I was so proud of myself that I did it. But then I started getting too many clients and that sounds like I'm sorry. Yeah, that sounds
Oh, me.
poor me. but not from the podcast. Like it wasn't a result of, it wasn't that good that I was like getting so many clients. Nobody listened to it, and that's fine. I didn't expect anything else.
You
But
don't know that. Don't say that
you're
nobody
right. The
listens
5
to it.
people that listened to it, I'm glad and thank you and you're welcome. But so I just got overwhelmed with like other work stuff in life. And so I stopped for a year, and then I just started again this year in June. And I've
Ah,
been doing an episode every week, and
yes.
I've stuck
Yes.
with it. And I'm pretty proud of myself for that.
So who, maybe we start there, like at the very beginning. Who do we think, like, who should start a podcast? Who should have a podcast?
Well, hold on. Before we go there, can I hear your story about how you decided to start one? Because I've been thinking
Yeah.
about that all morning.
Uh,
But I want to
how did I decide to
know.
start one? So to full transparency, I never, ever, ever said I want a podcast. That was never words that came out of my mouth. In my journey straight up out of corporate, I knew that what was going to, I knew I needed to close that chapter, and then what was meant for me was going to find me. And in the 30 to 60 days after I had left corporate, I knew that I was being called to build a business.
Mhm.
And I knew, because business is my background, like I would say that that's absolutely one of my strengths. Businesses require full on ecosystems. And so when I looked at the ecosystem that I was going to be building in general, hands down, podcasting was a fantastic strategy. So I saw podcasting as a business opportunity and a strategy to keep myself aligned,
Mhm.
to keep the consistency and discipline in my own business. And then, more like importantly, what I wanted to do with my podcast is I wanted to create an authentic space where I could continue to learn and grow and show up and honestly just transform. And that I could go back to those episodes, or that my kids could go back to those
Oh my God.
episodes, and just there it was. Like, so that's what I did. So everything about the podcast was 1000% for me strategic. I
Hmm.
know.
What, how did you know that it was a good, I should have written down what you said, but you said it was like a good, um, I think you said strategy, like a good strategy for
Yeah.
building your business, but like, how did you know that?
When you look at, I mean, there are a lot of things that go into it, but I think part of it just being, and maybe like this answers the question, like who should start a podcast. Um, when like there's a message, or like when you feel like you can serve, or for me, I guess when I feel like I can serve through my transformation, or through the things that I do know, or through the things that I'm trying to teach. Um, there are, what is it, it's crazy, it's like 505, or dang it, I don't know what the statistic is about how many people listen to podcasts. And so you're like, okay, well, when you're building a business, you have to be able to meet and go where the people are. Well, the people are listening to podcasts, which is kind of funny because I wasn't listening to podcasts. Now I
Really?
listen to podcasts all the time.
You,
Yep. Telling you.
okay. 546.7 million people are listening to podcasts in 2024, and 7.85% increase from the previous
Yep.
year. So
Yep.
that is a 7.85% increase.
And I love the fact too that podcasts are, again, like when you look at a like a push pull model, like it's a, people are typically, when they're going for podcasts, like they're looking for something specific. So you're
Mm.
already, from a business standpoint, from a strategic standpoint, you're already putting yourself in front of your, like, quote unquote, the clients or the
Ideal
people that
client.
you could serve. Yeah, because they're already, you're presenting exactly what they're looking for. So
Right.
that was for me.
Huh.
Why'd you
Yeah.
start yours?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
2021 is not that far away.
I I don't have a great memory. First of all. So why did I start it? Oh my God, I like literally don't even, I feel like I'm really good at putting myself back in the shoes of like whatever moment I was in, or like mindset that I was in. And I literally can't put myself back in my mindset that I was when I first started this. But I think that in general, it actually has a lot in common with these lives. You know, it's like,
Mhm.
I really want personally to have more of these kinds of conversations. I I want to be involved in them. I don't want to only just be listening
Yeah.
or reading about them. Like I want to actually be active in them and and because I feel like that's how you build the muscle, that's how you build the growth.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of touching on what you said, it's like you want a platform where you can evolve and you can learn and grow and you can change, and it has the flexibility to do all of that with you. And I guess technically maybe the social media platforms have that flexibility too, right? You post whatever the
They
heck you
do.
want to post. But I don't know. And I think podcasting, I think probably if I had a little more audacity and guts, which is kind of
Crazy.
embarrassing to say,
Right?
yeah,
Uh,
I would probably be doing more YouTube videos than podcasting. However, I think podcasting is easier to get started with because you don't have to look at yourself as much, if that makes sense. Like,
Okay. But you're still
yeah,
talking to yourself. Like solo
yeah.
episodes, that was one of the hardest things. I was sitting there. I remember like writing, trying to outline my first episode, and I was like, wait a second. So I'm legit just going to talk to myself for 10 minutes and okay, sure, we'll see how this goes.
And
Like,
it's so funny, right? And like I feel like I had the same thoughts as before doing it. I was like, I'm not gonna be able to sit there and talk to myself for 20 minutes plus, just with nobody else to
yeah,
banter with. How is
yeah.
that gonna work?
And then
But I
all
did it.
of a sudden, so like
Yeah,
I know I do so I do a mix of I think you do you do too. So we both do solo episodes and
yeah,
interview episodes. And
yeah.
I would say that that was probably one of the biggest unexpected surprises because remember I told you because this is how my brain works. I started the podcast purely as a strategy thing. And then on the other side of it, I was surprisingly like it was just it was beautiful the connections and the conversations that started to happen, just like what you were saying. So it opened up just conversations. There's no way in heck. I just don't know if I would have had. I don't know if you and I would have had like that conversation that you and I had. So we recorded a podcast together, and then literally, what is this like 6 7 weeks later? Here we are still talking to each other
Yeah,
weekly. Beautiful. That
yeah,
right there, like worth it every time.
yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like podcasts are really intimidating for people to start. And then once you get going, it's really not, I mean, it's not scary, it's not hard. It's I mean, okay, fine. Let's be real. Sometimes like I'll choose a podcast topic and I'll be like, shit, I don't know enough about this. How am I gonna talk about this? Or I gotta actually do some research to like have a little bit of backbone to whatever my argument is or whatever my thing is. But again, that's how you grow. And I was just like, because I've had so many people say like, oh, I've thought about having a podcast, and then they just don't do it.
Yep.
And so like, how was that process for you of like figuring out maybe the tech part of it?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. And you're gonna have to answer too.
Mhm.
Okay. So for me, the tech part of it again, I approach podcasting purely from a strategic standpoint, and then I have let it surprise me along the way, and have been beautifully blessed since June starting my podcast. So when I started it strategically, I approached it as how can I do this with discipline, with consistency, and how can I make this as easy as possible on myself? So for me, I was really intentional with the amount of editing that I was willing to do because that's what most podcasters will tell you, like why they stop or why they don't push out more episodes
That's
is
good.
because they're constantly editing. Because then not only like you think about it, if you record even just a 10-minute episode, which most people are going to tell you that's short. So if you record even a 10-minute episode and then you spend another even just to listen back to it would be an additional 10 minutes, but now you're editing and on top of it.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, like you easily triple the amount of time that you're spending on these episodes. So for me, I just flat out said I wasn't going to edit them,
I know.
and that was that.
And she told me that when I was going to be on her podcast, she told me it's not being edited. And I was like, should we reschedule for next year?
and It was just fine,
And it was fun.
unedited, and we survived. And look, it was just
Mhm.
fine. So, from
Mhm.
the tech standpoint, it was like, okay, I just need to record, I
Yeah.
just need to slap on an intro,
Yeah.
let the episode take place, slap
Oh, but
on
your
an
intro
ending.
is so good though. It's so professional. Like, did you do that on your own or
No,
did you have somebody help you
sure
create?
didn't. Yeah, I sure
Okay.
did not do that on my own. That one was with my publishing company. So the Fit and Faith Press
Wow.
that I worked with on the book release also helped me through a podcasting retreat to do that intro.
Oh,
And two, like because I want to, right, like we're always honest and thoughtful too.
yeah.
The pre-work that goes into a podcast, like really dialing in, okay, what do you think you can passionately talk about for gosh knows how long?
20 minutes times hundreds of episodes.
Yeah. So it was like, so I mean, I think that's one of those, like there's 80%. Oh, it's that quote that's like, dang it. Oh, with the president, where you're like, give me, if he's going to chop down the tree and he's like, he's going to spend most of his time sharpening the axe.
Oh my God,
Oh,
I don't know that quote. I'm sorry.
listen, I'm not a history person, okay? Like I'm aware of it, but clearly not.
Should I look it up? Which quote
Lincoln,
about me?
George Washington. Like we're talking about way back with the cherry, like the cherry tree,
Ah,
the
I got
axe.
it. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first four sharpening the axe. Abraham Lincoln.
Okay, so Lincoln was onto something. Lincoln
Mhm.
was onto something, like all the
Right.
prep work that went into
Mhm.
before even doing it, and the outro was part of it.
Okay,
Okay,
so I'm the opposite,
I was gonna
and
say, yeah, like now you're up. Okay, so when you were starting yours and your tech, like, because I think that's the other thing. I think people go, oh crap, consistency. I
uh-huh.
don't think I can show up every single week for gosh knows how long and talk about the same things. So that already kicks them out. And then I think that the second thing they go, oh crap, I'm gonna need all of this tech and I don't even know where to start. So how did you start with your tech?
Well, okay, hold on. Can I back up a little bit because I I don't know, like we've had this kind of conversation before where it's like you are so prepared and you like do everything in the right order, like you put the ducks in a row before you do it, and I don't do that.
And
Like
it
I literally jump in and the ducks are like on the other side of the road behind me, and then I'm over there and I'm just like, well, where are the ducks?
where are the ducks? That's not entirely true, though. Sure, you're looking for the 25 ducks that you just threw all over the place, but the one that is still in front of you, man, that thing is golden, and that's all you need. And that's why I freaking love you, because we are so different. We are
Yeah.
so different in that way. But look at like the path still ends in the same way, and like we still massive success, like all
Yeah.
of those things there's not just one way to do it, and so I love that.
Yeah, and I like that too. And because like for me, it's more of, I want to say it's almost more of like a feeling kind of thing as opposed to like
Mm.
logical movements forward. Like it, and you can feel free to correct this if it's not true, but like it almost seems like for you it's like very logical, like let me prep first, let me get the plan in place. And actually this is so funny because this is literally what I teach, but it's not actually how I naturally am. So it's kind of ironic that in that way. But so for the podcast, I think more than it being a strategic business move, I think it was really just something for me to express and connect and to carve out space to like talk about this kind of stuff. And I think I also wanted to see, do I even like doing this? Because I had never done it before. I wasn't somebody who was like into, music, what's it called? Um, I don't know,
It's like,
like music editing
oh
or like
yeah,
creating my
yeah,
own
video
music,
editing and all that jazz.
or yeah, like I wasn't ever into any of that. So I didn't know if I could even figure out how to do the audio, if I wanted to do video. I just didn't know anything. And so for me, it was almost like, well, let me wade into this,
Mm.
see if the water's warm, see if I like it. And if I want to go deeper, then I'll go deeper. And if I want to go back out of it, then I'll back out of it because I don't know if I like it. So And I did like it. I did
Mm.
like it for many reasons. And I like also creating the space for other people, like we were talking about with the guests, like creating space for the people to come on and talk about what are their opinions, what are their expertise, what do they have to share with other people. So, and actually this is also kind of interesting, that quote that I'm not going to remember exactly, but it's like the bridge appears, right? As you take the step, the bridge appears,
Uh,
because I there's a website that is for like audio equipment that I knew of, because at the bar we had ordered speakers and stuff from them. So I went to this website that
uh-huh.
has hundreds of products and microphones, and of course I wanted like a cute gold microphone or something, like I wanted something aesthetic. And I called, but there's so many options on there. Like, do I need a mixer? What is a mixer? I don't know what I need. So I called their customer service and started talking to this guy. I think he was in Jamaica, and he ended up being the nicest guy ever. And
Love
like,
him.
he ended up becoming like a mentor, literally, for like my
Oh,
first year doing the podcast. He was like, we had a couple phone calls. He told me what mic to get. He told me what mixer to get. He told me blah, 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 what like software to use. And then he would like email me every once in a while, like asking me how it was going. And then I think he gave me like one negative criticism or something. And then I was like, bye.
we're not friends
We're
anymore.
not friends anymore. um, so, but it was just really amazing how it's like you just take that first step and
Yeah.
then the answers appear. The answers come to you.
I believe that that happens too. And I would say there are other areas in my life where I'm much more like that.
You wade in.
Correct.
Okay.
In other areas. Not
Okay.
and yeah, and I think that's also part of maybe even the journey that I'm on right now.
Hmm.
Um, because in business it's always been much more like black and white
Yeah.
and logic and prep and execute.
Hmm.
And so now you with the launch of my own business, now how do you continue to like lean into those intuition parts? How do you lean
Hmm.
into those parts that don't have anything figured out and you don't even know what logic would even maybe sort of even look like, but how do
Yeah.
you at least like throw the ducks so that at least one ends
Yeah.
in front of
Yeah.
you.
Are the
Yeah.
are the ducks? You have to read the ducks. It's like tea leaves. Are the ducks like? Is anyone pointing forward, or are they? Like yeah. You just got to read them like tea leaves.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So with your tech then, how do you choose? So you whatever this angel of a customer service rep
Yeah.
suggested, that's you were like, well, I ain't got any. I don't know what else to do, so
Yeah.
let's try this, and then
He's the only duck that I had to follow, so I followed him. And yeah, so yeah, and then you know what? And I actually, this is something that I tell my clients often, because simple things, like I have clients sometimes who are like, well, I don't even know how to use Excel. So like how am I going to track my expenses in the spreadsheet that you're sending me, because I don't even, so like simple things like that don't have to do with podcasting necessarily, but it's like for me with podcasting, one of the ways that I moved myself forward little by little was literally just Googling and watching YouTube videos about things. Like
mm,
I use GarageBand to do my editing
nice.
on Apple. And sometimes like something weird, like I'll click something by accident, or I'll like hit something on the keyboard and it'll like change something. I don't know what the heck I did. So I just like YouTube it. Or if I don't know how to do something, some kind of function on there, I'll just YouTube it and watch like literally less than 5 minutes of a video about something, and boom, I solved the
Yeah.
problem. So again, for the people out there that are like, I don't know how to edit anything, I don't know how to edit video, literally like just take it, like go as far as you can. When you get
Mhm.
stopped, go seek out an answer,
Yep.
then come back,
And
go forward until you get stopped,
yeah.
right?
I think that's part of like that's actually part of that's the action part.
Yeah.
That's the everyone like folks can get really caught up in that planning piece,
Yes.
and then because there's concern about either failing or I don't know what I'm doing, or just the how feels so massive.
Yeah.
But really, truly, it's just about stepping into the arena, like stepping over the starting line and just knowing that until you figure it out, or at least this is what I've been doing, until I figure it out, right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, right
Mhm.
foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. And I do my editing in iMovie. And like I said, I never have I ever uh, done anything in iMovie until I had my podcast. And then it's just like, okay, how do I do this? How do I do that? And you start learning the lingo so that you even know what you're asking. Hey, I've pressed the title slide. Now what?
Yeah.
And then that gets easier too. But right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot.
And it's funny that you say that too, because lately I feel like I feel like I've been a little bit on an emotional roller coaster the last few weeks. Maybe it has to do with
Thanks.
the election, like we mentioned.
Samesies. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and so there have been like a lot of moments where I'm just like, I don't know what the next step is, or like I don't, like I feel stuck or whatever. And then exactly kind of this right foot left foot thing, it's just like, just do like, just keep doing it, just keep doing whatever you've already been doing, you
Yep.
know.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so if we were going to wrap this up,
Okay,
because I'm
you're
looking at the time
so
here.
good at that.
So I know podcasting. I first off, I feel like maybe you and I could even do a podcast episode. So maybe we talk about something like that, just an expanded
Yeah,
conversation of this.
with
That
like
would
more
be,
precise tips.
yeah, precise
Yeah.
tips. So some of the pros, we both said like the amount of connections, and just the like being able to have conversations that maybe even wouldn't have been had. And
Yeah.
then also too, we didn't explicitly say this, but one of the themes that I was picking up is just the amount of growth that it almost not forces, encourages, because you're
Yeah.
trying to figure it out. You don't know it yet. So right foot, left foot is going to require growth. Um, would you add anything to like that pros list?
Absolutely. So, like,
Yes.
whether you have a business or not, creating a podcast is almost like writing a book in that it puts you at a certain, like, people assume that you're at a certain level. It puts you in the space of like being an expert. And so you got to be careful with that, right? Because you will end up having influence that you need to be responsible about. But if you are somebody who's trying to put yourself at an expert level in some kind of a way, then this is a really good way to do that, to create that road for yourself. Yeah.
Yes. Love it.
Mhm.
Love it. All right. Cons. Let's see the summary of the
Work.
cons of podcasting. Not having everything all figured out right away.
Yeah.
It can be intimidating.
Yeah.
You said consistency.
Consistent.
Just
I mean,
whatever.
it's like a job, right? For me, I like to start things and then be done with it. And so podcasting is challenging for me in that you got to keep it going.
Yeah, it's continual. So that requires discipline and a plan, but it doesn't have to be hard.
Right.
And we wouldn't even say, I don't think either of us would say that the tech is a
Yeah.
con of podcasting. No, not at all.
No,
It feels like it before you get into it. But once you actually get into it,
it's pretty simple.
yeah, tech
Yeah.
is really simple. Um, let's see what else. And then I guess just advice, just general advice. One of the things that we kind of pulled out would just whatever you're going to do, like have it be authentically something you're passionate about, because then that's
Hmm.
going to make the discipline and the showing up consistently a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like with any kind of branding, it's like whether there are 500,000 or million podcasts out there, whatever that crazy number is that you said, nobody is you, you know? And so you're probably sitting there every time you have that thought of, I want to start this podcast, but you're like, well, who am I? Like, who's going to want to listen to me? But even if there's like one or two people out there that are going to listen to you, that's enough, right? If you're reaching one or two people, like that is enough. You're doing your duty. And stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about the people who would listen to you
Yeah,
and want to hear what you have to say, who you would help.
100%. I would say that was another like blessing in unexpected, just beautiful blessing was I remember the first time I got a message and it was from one of my favorite cousins growing up. And then we had a little bit of a falling out and that's okay. Life happens. We just went our different ways. But when this particular cousin reached out and was like, "Hey, I listen to your podcast, and it is actually is quite literally changing my life. B, I need
Oh
you
my
to keep
God.
showing up." And you're just
Oh,
like, "Well,
did you
what?"
cry?
Of course I cried. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, because I love that. Like, this person is so, it's like such a treasured like piece of my soul, and you're just like, "What? I didn't even know you like needed
Mhm.
me like that." And yeah, like, yeah, bro, if it's even if it's just for you, like, yeah, bro, I'll keep showing up. And that was really cool.
Oh, and that was so generous of them to say that to you.
I
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Because you need to hear that. I mean, that is something like you need the feedback because it is, you're just by yourself in front of the computer. You don't know if people are resonating or not. So
Yeah.
that feedback is worth
Everything.
everything. Hmm.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Well,
Just
my
before
friend,
we get off of here,
yes.
Julia, you need to start your podcast because the two of us, and I'm sure there's other people who are waiting for this, and also Marianne, Esta Madre Loca, I'm waiting for your podcast, even though I won't be able to understand it because it'll be in Spanish. But she needs to start it.
There you go. All
Yeah.
right. I love it. All right, my friend. Until next week, guys.
Okay.
Same time, same place. We love being here with you. Thank you.
See you next week, Britt. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.